And then the third issue with the publicly available files is that the codes aren't categorized in a useful way. And so it becomes more difficult to customize the message to the user about how to fix it. And there's no way to prioritize what you want to alert people about. Maybe you don't want to alert them about every possible error that they could make, at least initially. So again, the second step, we have to figure out a way to check the primary encounter diagnosis. Now we do this using what are called encounter validation extensions, and pretty much every Epic customer is using these. This is how you make sure that there is a diagnosis. This is how you make sure there's a level of service, that sort of thing. And these can be warnings or hard stops. And they can hyperlink the user to the place in Epic where they can go to fix whatever the issue is. And I'll show some screenshots of that. And then the third piece of this is tell the user what's wrong and how to fix it. And the key tool for that, again, is an encounter validation extension. And I'll show you that. Now, one of the great things about encounter validation is you can use rules, which means if you can write the rule, you can get the message that you want to the user. And you can also put multiple rules into one extension, which really simplifies the build in a lot of ways. Because if you've ever had to configure a profile for encounter validation, you know that these lists can be very long because you have to list all the encounter validations you want to run for every encounter type that you want to run them for. So with this multiple rule extension, the user will see whatever rule message applies to any of the rules that were true in your extension. So again, I'll show you an example of that. Now, one thing you really have to be aware of, there may not be a primary diagnosis at the moment in time when you perform your encounter validation. We learned this the hard way, but maybe you won't have to. There's a profile item which you can set to default the first diagnosis that a person enters to be primary, but we don't do that. And because of that, it means that when the person is closing their encounter, if there's only one diagnosis on the encounter, it might not be marked as primary. So our rules have to check for two things. The first thing it has to check is whether, if there is a primary diagnosis, that primary diagnosis is bad in some way.